Welcome back to pixelprojectradio. This is part 3 of our analysis of The Last of Us Part 2. John is back with me, joining me once again to lend all of his expertise to the platform. Thanks, John. How's it going?
Doing all right, man. My crayons are sharpened, the box is full, my helmet's on tight, I'm ready to go.
Alrighty, all that's left is making sure that you've got on the right underpants that have your name on them, and that's a great Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and definitely match the day of the week with the right day. Yeah.
We're covering up to part 3, not part 3, up to day 3A today, which, you know, if you know what that means, you know what that means. If you don't, you're going to find out pretty quickly. I haven't started changing my mind exactly, but I'm having more moments where, like, do you remember in part 1, John, where I had asked about Neil Druckmann and you had said that a lot of folks kind of think he likes to sniff his own farts?
Yep.
I can sort of see where they're coming from. I was playing through this game, and I'm noticing a lot of moments where it seems like the writing is expressly trying to make you, the player, notice how clever they are as writers. And that's something that I'm sensitive to because, I think that's a negative character trait of me. I think that I oftentimes do things and write things and say things and produce things in a certain way because on some level, I do want people to think of me as clever and as creative. And again, it's a character flaw. It's something that I try to work on, try to be more genuine and not think about that kind of thing. But all that to say, when I clock it in other people, I tend to, hone in on that. And I do think there are situations in this game, some of which we'll talk about today, I'm sure, where it seems like they really want you to think of them as clever little writers. Do you agree with that?
Sure. I think that there can be some moments in here where it's very much like, I explained the Naughty Dog yellow, right? It's having you or pointing you in a specific direction in the game. And I think sometimes the writing is kind of just having this big yellow arrow going, hey, look at this. Here's what we're doing. I think that can be a pretty fair criticism. For me, though, I don't think that it really changes my opinion. I just kind of accept it and go, okay, cool. Here's what they're doing. Here's what they did. Here's what they're trying to show, or whatever emotions that they're trying to write into any specific scene. I'm just going, okay, cool. Sometimes it can be considered ham-fisted or not, and sometimes it's like,
sure,
oh, okay, cool. This line of dialogue could mean one thing to someone and a different thing to someone else, or that type of thing. So I recognize that and still adore this game.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't change my opinion of the game overall either. I think there are gradients to how you interpret and enjoy different kinds of media. Specifically, what I was referencing is there are a lot of parallels between different characters in this game, and at a certain point it tips the scales beyond coincidental, and it becomes very clear that the writers really want you to notice these, and they really want you to think about that. And it opens up into another conversation entirely about whether or not subtlety is equivalent to a degradation in media quality, which I'm not convinced that it necessarily is. Unfortunately, and I don't like to live in this zone, but unfortunately I'm operating out of a zone right now of I know it when I see it kind of deal. like
sure.
if it's a lack of subtlety that is bad, it's one of those like, yeah, I know it when I see it. And I'm working really hard to articulate why that is moving forward in the notes and such, but I just can't help but think that every time they make another parallel, I'm like, man, they really want me to notice this, don't they?
Yeah, there's a huge like neon yellow sign that's just going, hey, look, duality in both sides of the story. This side's got a pregnant story. This side's got, or
Oh,
I'll say that
don't
again.
even get me
Like,
started, man. I stumbled into the Last of Us 2 subreddit, and I had no idea how much they hated that game over there.
oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, haters are going to hate. This is certainly a game that just elicits some very strong emotions, and people are gonna be keyboard warriors and fight to the death on as far as a keyboard is concerned about how they feel about this game. But yeah, that in particular, people being pregnant in this game was certainly something that set off the internet like on fire.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get back into it so we can get to all of those moments that set the internet on fire. Last time we left off with Ellie's confrontation of Nora, and we had a really nice discussion around that. We're going to see a lot more of that kind of thing moving forward, but that was a pivotal point for Ellie. And I do remember, I haven't got that far in the edit yet for part 2, for episode 2, but I do remember coming off initially as wondering why that scene was as effective as it was. I kind of argued myself out of that after you helped me argue myself out of that on air. But, it was a great scene. So we're picking up right after that. It's day 3 in Seattle. Dina is still quite sick. So Ellie and Jesse make the decision to go look for Tommy without her. Really, it's Dina's orders. She says that she's going to be staying in the theater. She says she's okay with it. So it's going to be Ellie and Jesse. Ellie's still hunting for Abby overall at the aquarium. This is important to point out for an upcoming scene. Ellie seems to have had a change of heart. She does tell Jesse that once we find Tommy, we'll all go home. Like, Dina needs to get home. She needs to have care. She needs to be taken care of because she's very pregnant and she's sick. She should not be on this adventure. And finally, Ellie is like, okay, all right, like once we find Tommy, we'll all go back home. Dina won't go back without me, so I'll go too. This is all presupposing that the listener or the player believes her, but she is setting that intention up right here.
Yeah, and we kind of get this from the scene that actually played like before they leave, where her and Jesse are talking on the balcony there in the theater. Like, hey, yeah, we should get her back to Jackson. She needs to, proper care and that type of thing. So it does seem like fairly genuine here, especially given, again, the scene even before that where Dina's attending to Ellie's wounds right after the whole incident with Nora. So I think between those two scenes, like Ellie's sort of had this change of heart where it's like, okay, yeah, she's clearly sick. This road has kind of come to an end and we need to just get on out of here, and we need to get Tommy too.
Right. Not at all the Ellie that we've come to know throughout this game so far. But it's what she's saying, and Jesse's willing to believe her. I don't really have a lot to say as Ellie and Jesse continue toward the aquarium. It's, more Last of Us stuff, and especially after the car chase thing that we just come off of, more Last of Us stuff is totally fine. It can't be pedal to the metal all the time. That gets really fatiguing. The two of them do overhear, though, that a sniper was spotted at this location called the Marina. More than likely Tommy. Here's where things get twisted. Jesse wants to go and save him, right? Obviously, it's Tommy. It's one of our own. We got to help him. Ellie says no. She's still 100% focused on Abby. Even going so far, she has to justify this to herself. Otherwise, she gets that cognitive dissonance and the whole establishment begins to crumble. She justifies this to herself by saying, if we want to help Tommy, we should go after Abby. She knows on some level how close she is to being irredeemable, I think, and she needs to justify things to herself this way. And the two part ways. Jesse seems to be a sort of mixture of disgusted, and disappointed, and even horrified with Ellie. He can't believe this shit. I think we can as players, but even Jesse now is starting to see Ellie's depravity.
Yeah, it's such a brutal scene insofar as like Ellie literally says to him like, "Hey, you go and get him. I'm not going to come save your ass." And it's also just the actor who plays Jesse, I forget his name off the top of my head, but it's how he says this line and how it's animated, where he just looks at her, kind of shakes his head and says, "You know what? I really hope you make it." And then just they part ways. It's almost like a breakup. You're like, oh my God, man, like this dude has been ride or die from the beginning. He's walked in on you and Dina right after they broken up. He's walked in on you guys having sex. He doesn't hold any grudge against you for the kiss that you guys had at at the dance or anything like that, right? He's come to Seattle because his friend's bullshit is his bullshit, as we'll see in a later scene here. Like, he's just a good overall dude, and you're just going to dismiss him with this. And man, this was kind of a turning point for me where I was really starting to dislike Ellie as a character. I was just like, God, like, you were already being a dick with Nora, like I said last week, and now you're being a dick to, best boy Jesse over here. Like, come on, Ellie. Come on.
Yeah, we as players are kind of primed to like him. He's been written as just being unendingly likable from the beginning. So now, with him turning on Ellie, it's like, if you haven't noticed it, Ellie's becoming increasingly more irredeemable. Believe me, with some upcoming scenes, you are not going to miss it. I promise.
Yeah.
There's too much water to swim there to where we want to go. But the WLFs, they have I should really just start calling them wolves. They call themselves wolves. I have written WLF''S throughout this entire thing. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, WLFs. It's like, no, just say wolves, dude. They call
just
themselves
wolves.
The wolves have this like little skiff boat, so we're gonna jack that from them. This is the first. I wrote bored like I'm a geriatric Atari gamer. This is the first bored throughout this entire game that I remember saying, I really don't like this. This is like, what is this, John? Is it like a mall, like a former mall, based on how it's set up with multiple floors and storefronts?
Yeah, this was a old shopping mall. I forget the name of the real life mall that this is modeled after, but yeah, this is a mall that's been completely flooded. Something that we haven't really talked about as far as like combat encounters go is verticality, and this set piece has I guess technically you would say 3 levels, because the bottom level is completely underwater, and you have access to many areas via swimming. And then you kind of have your main level here, a bunch of stores and stuff, and then you kind of have like a mezzanine level up on the second floor. So you get to really mess around with verticality here, which I really love. Hard disagree from me, though. I love this set piece. I teased this last week where I said, I had like 2 really favorite set pieces. This is my favorite one just because of the verticality and being able to go in and out of water, in and out of different stores. I think something about it being a mall, I don't know if this happened to you at all, Rick, when you were in this section, but I jump scared myself a few times because all of the stores were like clothing stores apparently in this mall, and so there's so many like mannequins around. And there's also like those construction halogen lamps everywhere kind of shedding light on all of these stores. So there were a few times where I'd pop Ellie out of the water and then there'd be a mannequin standing there, and I just like went to town with like the pistol or something and just shooting at a damn mannequin, which was pretty fun. So I really love this set piece. I use listen mode here, just completely abuse it, because there were times where I could see something off in the distance and I didn't know if it was an actual wolf enemy like just standing still or if it was a mannequin. So using the listen mode here was really fun. And again, like swimming in and out of water and playing with the 2 different like actual levels within this kind of felt like Ellie being Solid Snake in a way. So I really love this set piece.
Yeah, those lights are a great touch. I'm glad that you brought those up. There's something every time I see lights like that blinding bright white lights that makes things almost look clinical. There's something very unsettling about those, very unnatural, and they're used here to great effect. They're using them in the game because this place is demolished. There's not a lot of natural light here, so they kind of need them, but they have this quality that makes things feel very unsettling. I think the reason that this area kind of ticked me off a bit is just because it's very easy to get turned around, and your goal here is specifically that you have to take out everybody so you can take their boat. You can't just take it and then hope to get away out of a firefight. You do need to take everybody down, and they're lurking all over the place across all the different levels. The thing is that I could never get a full hang on the total layout. And not so much as like what it looks like, but how to get from, point A to point B, because you can't just go in a full circle around on every single floor. Certain areas are blocked off. You have to go around to the other side, and smartly so, because otherwise, it would be probably too easy. I don't think it's bad. I just it wasn't to my personal taste. It's a perfectly fine level, and I will say I was able to stealth through this whole thing. I didn't get caught one single time. I had a couple silencers, which are just my favorite things to use. Got some stealth kills. It was great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is where you can really use your full arsenal of weapons if you want, either stealth or just go in guns blazing. There are, I don't know, probably 10 or a dozen people here, so it really is fun to just kind of mess around and stealth if you can. It's not, like as you said, it's pretty easy to stealth around here, but I love it. I love it.
Once you take out all the wolves, you do take their little boat and you drive it on down. You do get to drive through the waters throughout this segment. You have to get out a couple times to, lift some gates and do stuff like that. But it's cool. They let you drive the boat. That's nice. The sea, though, once you get out to the full quote-unquote sea to get to the aquarium, it is totally rough. It's really unkind. It's raging. And Ellie's out here alone. She is the sole person in these waters. Nobody else to be seen, now that we've taken them all out anyway, for miles. And it's just a perfect representation of her arc throughout this. She is fundamentally alone, going forward in her mission despite overwhelming signs that she should stop. And, a major sign being that her boat capsizes like twice, and she has to, well, no, I guess it capsizes once, and then she gets capsized twice while in the water. The waves like drag her down. How far is justifiable? She is getting every sign from the universe to stop, and she keeps going. It would be admirable if she wasn't, practically irredeemable at this point.
Yeah, man, what a beautifully tragic scene here, because I've been saying it across these episodes, weather really is a character to me in this game. And so you're seeing this thunderstorm and the waves are getting choppy and this little dingy boat is just not able to handle these waves. But it's that solitude that she has, or just that being alone on crashing against these waves, right? And there's this eeriness that comes when the lightning strikes and you can see the aquarium and the tall Ferris wheel behind it in the background. You can see the goal lights up with the lightning strikes, and it's just something about it is just so off-putting and unsettling, but in a good way. This is one of those things in the game where I'm I'm feeling it too, or I guess I should say I'm feeling it, but Ellie isn't. She's just so far gone, and she's yeah, fuck it, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go. She is undeterred.
It's cool too, in retrospect, viewing, you had mentioned the Ferris wheel and the aquarium itself. In retrospect, those are two symbols that are very, very different to Ellie and to Abby. More appropriately, Abby and Owen versus Ellie. They represent totally different things. One is retribution and righteous justice. The other is, well, I don't know how far to get into that without spoiling stuff, but it's very positive, sort of bittersweet positive for those two. It's a cool little thing in retrospect too, whenever you're thinking about this kind of thing, these stories. So we make it inside. Ellie finally gets into the aquarium, and we are immediately going to get two back-to-back very controversial scenes. Ooh, I'm just going to say up front, I think they're both very good. First one, as soon as you get inside, you get attacked by a dog. This is, we don't know this just yet, but this is Owen and Mel's dog named Alice. The dog just, it's lunging for you. It's going to kill you. So Ellie kills the dog. And this is another time where you have to do the mash the button prompt. The F key for me. I'm pressing the F key repeatedly to pay respects in advance because I then kill the dog, as we all must. Gamers really did not like this.
Yeah, you're crawling around in the vents because Owen has the keys to the aquarium, so there are a lot of locked doors. And as a lot of Naughty Dog games happen, either the floor collapses or a vent collapses, and you fall into the ground. And Alice is kind of more like a German Shepherd type dog, and is kind of trained to attack on sight, or trained to attack someone that isn't a friendly. And man, brutal. Ellie has the switchblade, and a couple stabs in the neck, and R.I.P. Alice.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand why this scene upset people. The scene is supposed to upset you. I mean, if it's not clear how irredeemable Ellie has become, I mean, they're really, really laying it on thick here, admittedly. And it doesn't bother me. Again, like, I don't think subtlety is equivalent to quality. Not necessarily. But like, Alice was set up. I don't remember. Have we seen Alice before at all? Or was this the first time?
Trying to remember now. I don't think that we've seen her at this point. I think we have not seen her at this point. So to you, maybe the player, like, this is just, one of the dogs that's, can sniff you out, that we've seen the wolves have, throughout Seattle. We haven't seen Alice specifically yet.
Yeah. And I mean, you could argue like, well, they could have just not put it in there at all. Yeah. Okay. But the whole point of this and the message of this game is just how much this sort of pure hatred degrades one's character. To that end, I read somewhere recently, and I did not take down the quote or the source. So the source is just trust me, bro. But I read somewhere recently that the show, the season 2 of The Last of Us show on HBO, willingly did not include this because one of the show creators or showrunners said, quote, there's a rule in Hollywood that you don't kill dogs. And that's just a decision that flies in the face of what this game is trying to say, if I've ever heard one.
And if there are criticisms to be levied against the show, showrunner Craig Mazin is the one that said this quote. And I am on the side of the gamers kind of having backlash against that, because truly it does go against the themes of this game. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable, supposed to make you feel certain emotions, right? And the show did not do it.
Yeah, that's, the fact that you say that it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, a lot of the criticisms I've seen of this game online, just from Joe Sixpacks like you and me on like Reddit and stuff, a lot of it does seem to be equating the negative feelings that the game is trying to make you feel with being poor writing. I forget if it was part 1 or part 2. I hate to, jump into the topic of the week and, join the sexy conversation about media literacy. But like this, when I see stuff like that, then it's like, I mean, it kind of is a problem. Its depiction is equal to endorsement. It's ridiculous. However, the more controversial scene, I think, or at least the more impactful one to me, comes next. Oh, before we move to that though, the music throughout all of this is stupendous. It's just these very mild, sort of stagnant strings. I think if they're there, they're very faint. I might be imagining those in my head, just trying to remember it. But there's this persistent heartbeat that's below that just goes on and on. It's very low piano, and I think it might have some string muting going on to give it a more percussive effect. Maybe with a double tracked with a string bass as well, upright bass, that is to say. And it's just this heartbeat that's going on and on. It builds tension. And what it made me think of is that, it is a very tense kind of soundtrack, yes, but that heartbeat is so consistent. It's stable. It's not erratic. And that, to me, I'm thinking, this is Ellie. She is so focused in her hatred that she's not even worked up. She's not even scared. She's not second guessing. This is just pure trained killer mode. This is just another day at the office for her. Admittedly, it's going to be one that's really terrific, like, free pizza day that we all love. What a weird joke to make in light of what's happening here. But do you know what I mean? Like that heartbeat, It's so consistent. And all I could think is like, man, that's Ellie. She is so locked in. She's not second guessing a single thing. It's really good. When this soundtrack is good, it's good.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I mean, Gustavo, like through both of these games, man, like there are moments where you don't recognize the music, and I think I would make the argument that like can be a good thing for some of the scenes, and then the moments where you are meant to hear something like this scene and it just comes through ever so lightly, and you're like, oh man, that amongst, or with the scene, kind of playing in tandem is like just perfection in my opinion.
We finally make it into the main room of the aquarium, and we overhear Mel and Owen arguing. Right now, players might be less familiar with Owen and Mel. They were at the Joel scene. They were there. They were a part of that group. And here they're arguing. It's not clear from context what exactly, but they are arguing about Abby in some way. Abby's gone somewhere. Mel does not want to follow. Owen does. And they're really at odds with each other. Owen is insistent. Mel, as she turns to leave, just says, "Fuck you, Owen." And that's when Ellie is spotted. She's got her gun drawn. She says, "Hands in the air."
Hands up. Where's Abby?
You're that girl from Jackson.
Tell me where she went. How do we know you won't kill us?
Give her what she wants and we're dead.
You guys can survive this. I just need her.
Bullshit.
And she's not there to play around. Ellie tells them, "You can survive this. I just want Abby." Whether or not that's true is up to anybody's guess, but I like to think that I like to think she's probably telling the truth. But at any rate, she says, "All right, look, I'm just looking for Abby. Here's this map. You, Mel, come over here, point to where Abby's at, and then you're going to tell me, and it better fucking match up." She's doing the Tommy trick, the Joel trick. She's been trained for this. The problem only happens when Owen tries to be a hero. He rushes her in honestly what was probably the best moment to do so, if any were. But he rushes her, and she promptly shoots him through the stomach. He's dead. Mel rushes at you too at that point with a knife. You have to wrestle out of it. You have to press F or square, whatever it is. And it ends with Ellie getting the better of her, pinning her down, and knifing her through the neck. This is, just in terms of how this is depicted, it's really brutal.
Yeah.
They really wanted to depict this up close.
Yeah, man, this scene is absolutely just brutal. I don't know really another word to use. Ellie is, for all intents and purposes, the scene with Nora, the interrogation for Ellie was a success, right? In that she got the information out of Nora that she wanted. And now she's kind of on, maybe not necessarily a murder high, but she's feeling like, okay, I'm now maybe 90% what Joel was, right? This is her trying to be as close to Joel as a one-to-one as possible, and she fails miserably. And it's so heartbreaking to see how this scene plays out between all of these characters. We effectively basically saw like kind of the breakup happen between Owen and Mel. We know that Mel is pregnant with Owen's child. That kind of "fuck you, Owen" that she says.
Well, we don't know that yet. We're getting a little ahead of the horse here. That hasn't been revealed, I don't think.
It was in like the first 15 minutes of the game when Owen and Abby are on the like overlooking Jackson.
Oh, right. It's a little toss away line. That's right.
Yeah. It's like, oh, hey, Mel's pregnant.
It would be understandable not to remember that, I think, as a first time through. It was pretty quick, and so much has happened since then. But we are reminded of that here. As Owen is bleeding out, as he's dying, Ellie goes over to him, gun to his throat, saying, "Just give me your location." And as he's dying, he barely gets the words out, to the point where they don't even subtitle it. It just says like inaudible or something. He kind of tries to mouth the words, "She's pregnant," which Ellie almost has a breakdown just upon hearing it. She rushes over. She like pulls the outer coat that Mel is wearing off, just so it's like her hoodie underneath, and sees the baby bump. And she just immediately goes into shock and begins to hyperventilate and dry heave. I think this scene is effective for a couple of reasons. One, this is just like previous scenes. You have to mash F to not just to survive, but to also make the stab. We kind of talked at length on this in the last episode. I'm not sure that much more needs to be said about that. Two, the obvious realization from Ellie at how rabid she's become, the total deleterious effect that her rage has had on her on a human level, like maybe even on a spiritual level. That's another reason. Third reason, the obvious duality between Mel and Dina. You know, not only like what would Dina say if she saw this, but this is a woman who was like Dina. What if this happened to Dina? How would that affect those around her? What would Dina say if she saw me kill another pregnant woman? And this is where in the notes I made the note that I made the mistake of going to the Last of Us 2 subreddit. I think everybody there hates this game. One user with like tons of upvotes made a comment that said the only reason that Dina and Mel are pregnant is to abandon all subtlety in pointing out that Abby and Ellie are basically the same.
Yeah, hard disagree. I don't think that holds up.
No, of course not. Do you remember how you felt when you first saw this scene?
Man, I think I need to start with like the end of the scene and how I felt, because this scene kind of does the same like sound effect from the Joel death scene, where it's kind of like that flash grenade white noise kind of sound when she is, you know, when after she unzips Mel's jacket, sees that she's pregnant, and she is kind of fumbling and dumbling around on the floor. She's hyperventilating and breathing really fast. Like music kind of kicks up, but like that kind of high whistle, like kind of like flash grenade kind of sound is happening too. And
yeah,
I actually found this out through the director's commentary, because I thought I heard this on my initial playthrough, but there's a moment right after this happens where Tommy and Jesse come in, and the first time that she hears her name, someone says Ellie. It sounds like Joel. And confirmed in the director's commentary, Neil Druckmann says, oh yeah, we had Troy Baker come in and say her name just for that one line of dialogue.
cool.
And then Tommy says it again. And so like you hear Joel's voice, and then it's actually Tommy and Jesse come in. So that I think is just a cool little subtlety within this scene. I remember sitting on my couch playing this and seeing this whole scene between, you know, starting from Alice, now going to Owen and Mel, going, oh my God, man, this character who is so full of life and had like this youthful, like just way about her in the first game. I remember like I was trying to think back to like all of the joke books and her talking about being an astronaut and wanting Joel to sing for her. That kid is now grown up and become a much evil version of the child from the first game. Granted, I mean, this is 4 years into the future, but my goodness, I was really starting to dislike Ellie as a character. Like, my goodness,
Sure.
you were so goal oriented. Look at the carnage in your wake here. So many needless deaths that have happened, and more are about to come, all because of this obsession, this
Right.
desire for you to exact revenge. I was like, my goodness, like, is there any more depth for you to fall? I don't know. Like, what is rock bottom for Ellie at this point?
And it's natural for players to hate her at this point, but the intention I don't think is necessarily even that, so much as it is to get you thinking and observing the rock bottom, as you said, that she's hit, or continues to dig out for herself. And yeah, that probably is going to result in you feeling not so positively towards her.
Yeah.
But I mean, depravity is one of the best words for it. And hearing that subtle voice of Joel's is important too, because not only are we observing the depravity, not only are we observing the degradation of morals, of spirit, the hatred poisoning the body, blah, 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 we're also experiencing Joel's daughter. And hearing that voice for the first time, I bet a lot of, if they did hear it, that is, I bet a lot of folks would think, oh, that sounded like Joel. What would Joel do or say if he saw functionally his daughter doing this? Would Joel see her as being justified? Would it be that simple to say just justified? Yes. Okay. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Or would it be more subtle than that? Would there be gradients? I mean, that's something. And I wonder if Ellie is thinking about that too. The fact that Joel does have that voice line there very well could be part of Ellie's subconscious here too. She's not only reeling about what she's just done, now she hears Joel and she's thinking, oh God, oh fuck, like what would he say? Her whole world is unraveling at this point.
Oh yeah, I think it enacts some like level of PTSD for her in some regard too, where it's like, my goodness, I think the age difference between Joel and Ellie plays a huge part in how this scene plays out, in that Joel was 30 something by the time the outbreak started, and he had 20 years experience of doing really shitty things like smuggling and killing people to survive and that type of stuff. He had just been so hardened by what this world needs to survive. And Ellie's had just a minimal amount of time in doing it. And Joel could have walked into this exact same scene and probably would have ended in the 2 deaths of Mel and Owen here, but would not have been able to feel like the level of empathy, I guess, in a way that Ellie is showing here. Like, oh fuck, oh God, I can't believe I just did this. And now, what would Dina say? What would Joel say? Is she even thinking to herself how far she's fallen at this point? She's just so far gone and not able to really, unscatter her brain and her thoughts and what's happening around her. Just her whole environment's just been flipped upside down in this one scene.
Right. It's part of this game's whole mission to make you think more about what it means to kill people in these video games. They're not just, well, I mean, of course they are just numbers, right? They're code because it's a video game, but what is it depicting really? Deaths don't just happen to nameless people. They happen to people with families, with lovers, with lives. Anyway, the scene kind of fades out, and when it comes back, everybody's back at the theater. I can't remember. Are they talking about heading back to Jackson right now, Tommy and Jesse, when Ellie come back in? I mean, I know they're joking about like getting a present for Maria to bribe her to not be mad at Tommy. But is that the plan? They're going back to Jackson, yeah?
Yeah, that's the plan at this point, is now that the 3 of them have been reunited, the plan is to get Dina back home.
Right. Yeah. And it seems like that's what's going to happen, even as Tommy's leaving, one of the last things he says to Ellie is, hey, they got what they deserved. And Ellie says, but she gets to live. Tommy replies, yeah, is that okay? And she says, it has to be. After what we just saw her do, the back-to-back events, brutally torturing Nora, killing the dog, killing a pregnant woman, it really, in this moment, if you don't know anything else that's coming, you might believe her. She says, it has to be. We're done. I've done all of this fucked up shit. My girlfriend, who is also pregnant, needs medical attention. And Jesse and Tommy are okay. Like it's done. We got to go. And if you were a player during the initial release window, you might think this is the end because this whole front half is decently long. Like it's not crazy long, but you've been playing for a decent number of hours. And journalists were specifically told not to review or disclose anything about the back half of the game in their reviews.
Yeah.
So you might think this is the end, and you might think that it's kind of anticlimactic, or you might think you might happen across Abby and, get your justice that way. You do happen across Abby, as it turns out, but not in the way you might think. Things seem okay. You and Jesse are talking. You hear a scuffle outside. Something's happening to Tommy. This whole thing is very quick. It's not cinematic, which is just how I like it. They run out. Immediately, Jesse is shot through the cheek. Like he's dead.
He's gone.
I haven't finished. Yep. I haven't finished the game. Okay, he is dead.
Yeah.
Okay, I technically haven't finished yet, but who knows? The magic of video games, they could bring him back. But no,
Sure.
He takes a pretty serious shot to the face. He's dead. Ellie manages to take some cover, but it's Abby. She's here. She knows what you did. She knows everything that you did. She's got Tommy at gunpoint on the ground. She's kicking him. She's saying, look, if you don't stand up, drop your weapon and stand up, I'm going to shoot him too.
Stand up! Hands in the air, I shoot this one too.
Don't you do it, Ellie. Get out of here.
Stand up! Now!
Don't you fucking dare!
Shut the fuck up!
Tommy's like, no, get out of here. Ellie acquiesces. Again, I mean, she is in no position to be defiant in any way. And she lays it all bare. She's like, look, I know why you killed Joel.
He did what he did to save me. There is no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Just let him go.
And Abby, it's interesting. Abby's eyes are not full of violence. You can see flitters of just pure sadness. You can tell this is not, Abby does not want to be here doing this. And that's reflected in how she responds to this. She's like, not incredulous, but it looks like she wants to cry a little bit. She says, you killed my friends.
You killed my friends. We let you both live. And you wasted it.
And that's the end of part 1.
So, man, huge props to Laura Bailey. That line delivery of "you wasted it," there's some like anger and grit that comes through, and it's just perfect line delivery in my opinion. I'd like to backtrack just a second to talk about Jesse, because right before this whole scene plays out and Tommy left, right, Jesse and Ellie sort of like the bromance kind of gets back together. And this is where, I'm paraphrasing, Jesse says, I came back because my friends, problems are my problems. And like, he goes, even if, they can't get out of their own way. So they kind of make up in a way here. And man, just unceremonious death, just barrels through this door, gets shot right through the cheek. He's gone. Mm-hmm. Man, brutal. But it's interesting because we don't know the full picture at this point, but I think something to what you were saying about Abby's look here, to me, it comes across as like a little bit of confusion, because Abby is here for kind of a completely different reason to what Ellie thinks. Ellie's thinking, okay, she's a former Firefly and there's no cure in the world because of what my father figure did. No, she's here because of who was in the hospital at the time, right? Like Ellie is completely misreading the situation, thinking, oh, she's pissed off, Abby's pissed off because there's no cure. No, Abby's pissed off for a very different reason, very like more personal reason. And Ellie just doesn't understand it at this point.
Yeah. And that's about to be revealed. We'll probably talk on that in a second. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about it, to be honest with you.
Sure.
It feels a little too convenient, but at any rate. This is going to put us into part 2 of the game, where you play as Abby. You play as Abby across the 3 days, day 1, 2, and 3 in Seattle. This was really unexpected, and a lot of players, I think, didn't like this, because now we're being made to play as the person that killed our beloved Joel right at the start of the game. We didn't even get justice for Joel by getting to kill her, and now we have to play the game as her, and it's going to try and show us that she's actually a good person. What the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've probably tipped our hat a little bit about how we feel about that, and we're going to talk about that some more too. But I wanted to share 2 thoughts that I had. One that I came up with, and another that I came across that I didn't even consider listening to a review of this game by YouTuber Noah Caldwell-Gervais. Definitely one of my favorite writers, but I was thinking about Abby's section coming after this, and why it's good that it wasn't sprinkled in throughout the story as we were going along. And I think this decision works twofold. And by the way, why you should not play the chronological version if you've never played this game before. It will not be as impactful. Yeah. But I think the reason that this works is twofold. One, if you were to have context of who Abby is, what her motivations are, what her deal is, this would betray the message of the game. Ellie's quest for revenge is built upon one thing and one thing only. She killed Joel. She is the enemy. We are not supposed to like her. We are not supposed to view her as human. She is a target. That is Ellie's drive. And that last part, not view her as human, is critical. That's reason number one. The second reason, and this is what Noah pointed out, having this come after highlights just how much of a non-issue this whole thing was for Abby. Joel got what he deserved. Abby got her justice, and regardless of how much it satiated her, whether or not she feels one way or the other about it, it's over and done. She doesn't think about Ellie. She doesn't even know that Ellie's around until what happens at the aquarium.
Yeah.
Ellie's degradation of character and Abby's fall at opposite ends of a timeline. You know, Abby's search for Joel happened and was accomplished, and now she's coasting. Ellie was coasting at the beginning and then was ignited, to search. This is really well done. And I think making the decision to have Abby's section come in its entirety right after was definitely the way to go. I have seen some arguments that makes the pacing feel bloated and it makes you feel like you're having to replay everything. I just don't buy that. I think the sections are different enough. And honestly, Abby's sections are kind of more fun to play and totally unrelated story-wise. So I don't think it's a pacing issue at all. If anything, I kind of think the back half of the game is paced a little bit better than the first half. I don't know. That was a lot. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
So when this pops up, right, and we get Seattle day one and we're playing as Abby again, I was pretty much like, you know what, game, go fuck yourself. You've made me feel a certain way about Ellie because I hated Ellie, and now you're making me play as the character that I watched brutally murder the protagonist that I played 12 hours with in the first game. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, this, what are you doing to me, game? Man, I think NCG here like really kills it with what he says. I agree with you. I think the second part of this game is necessary, and I do think the pacing is a little bit better. I was so apprehensive to want to be on the stick playing as Abby, but again, we've kind of already tipped our hand. Like, it works for me. By the end of my time with Abby, I was like, okay, cool. I think what this game does ultimately in showing you two characters that are kind of on the same journey but different starting points. We meet Abby at the 90% point. She's about to cross the finish line, and we're seeing Ellie's complete journey all the way through it. It's the same journey. They're trying to get revenge on someone, right? See that justice is served, and it's the exact same journey. We're just seeing 100% of one and 10% of the other, and then the next part of that character's story is what we get to play and experience here. And I think that the way that it's structured is the way to do it. The chronological order, I did try it. Just a little anecdote here. It really messes up the story for me because it front loads all of the flashback sequences, and then there are moments where, like, once you get into Seattle day one and stuff, you see that, like, okay, there's a couple of moments where like Ellie and Abby kind of sort of like just barely miss one another, or something's happening over here that may have affected something over there type deal, especially in day two when you get to hospital sequence. But it still wasn't effective, or I should say wasn't as effective as being able to do, okay, this is 10 to 12 hours with Ellie and maybe 12 to 14 hours, maybe even longer with Abby here. Like, right. And I think her section is longer on purpose because you need that time with her to kind of come around. And if you don't, you don't. But again, our hand's been tipped. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Rick, but I definitely came around by the end of my time with her, and that extended 3 to 5 hours or so was what I needed, right? And we'll talk more about her section here in just a minute, but I think how it's handled is just brilliant. It's, if you can say one thing about this game, is that Naughty Dog wasn't afraid to step up to the plate and take a fucking swing. For some people, that swing resulted in a home run, and other people it's a strikeout, but you got to at least acknowledge that they were willing to step to the plate, knowing that they were making multiple decisions, not just one, but 4, 5, 6, 7 decisions in this game that they knew people were going to just outright hate, and this was one of them.
Absolutely. They approached this work with conviction, and they made the work that they wanted to make. No matter how you feel about this game, it is not just a sequel by the numbers to churn out to get some money to the actors and the creative directors and everybody. It's not that. They had a goal in mind. Whether or not that worked for you, I mean, kind of immaterial, as you said. I totally agree with you. I do think it's really good. I think there are some criticisms to make, particularly with some stuff we're about to see. We're now going to take over as Abby, and we're going to be introduced to her and what her deal is, as well as the rest of the wolves. And this is where the comparisons to to Ellie, to Joel from Abby's side start to get a little, they're nudging you to say, did you see that? Did you see that? How clever are we? For example, you immediately start off as a flashback of a young Abby and her dad freeing a zebra. This whole intro serves to humanize them and make you like them. They're freeing a zebra. He's an animal lover, just like Joel and Ellie's experience with the giraffe, right? Same deal.
Yeah.
They seem very pleasant, ideal. What else this intro serves to do is explain their role in the plot. What happened was that Abby's dad was the surgeon at the end of part 1 at St. Mary's Hospital. He was the one that was going to do the surgery on Ellie to get a cure. And he was the only one that was able to do it. Like, he was that kind of like medical prodigy, I guess, or at least, the best that they had in this post-education world. Abby was a firefly. Owen was a firefly. They were all fireflies. That's something that we touched on in the last episode, like the fireflies dissolving into the wolves. I think the game served that up pretty just fine. But the fact that Abby's dad was the doctor, I have heard folks say felt a little too predictable, felt a little bit like a primetime movie kind of deal. I can see that. I think I might agree with that more than I disagree.
Yeah, I guess I'll land on the side of disagree. I think it is ultimately bringing even more weight to Joel's decision to satisfy his needs of having a surrogate daughter versus, saving the world. And we went into that covering part 1 last year where, we had no idea that that surgery would have been successful and if they would have been able to actually make and then distribute a vaccine. So I'm on Joel's side as far as what he did anyway. But as far as Jerry is concerned, that's the name of Abby's dad, him being the doctor, I think brings just more like impact for me to Joel's decision, which I'm on board with. Like, I like that actually.
Oh, sure. No. I don't think it's a bad decision. It does feel a little convenient, but it also serves to emphasize why Abby did what she did. It wasn't just because, like you alluded to this earlier, John, it wasn't just because, she had this altruistic streak, she wanted to save the world, and now there can never be a vaccine because Joel, took that away from them. No, it was because Joel killed her dad. Like, cut and dry, plain and simple. Like, that is the reason. And this game is no stranger to family deaths. We see that happen all the time. We're conditioned to be empathetic to that. And because it's just a natural, human response. And to that end, they replay the Joel scene right after we find this out. And the camera focuses more on Abby during that time. And you see, when they played it at the beginning, it was framed in such a way to be focused more on Ellie and Joel and Tommy, us, our guys, our crew. And the result of that was it painted the wolves and Abby as just sort of psychopaths, total insane marauders. Now that we've seen, the flashback with Abby's dad, now we see the scene again focused on Abby. It's very clear that she didn't exactly enjoy doing this to Joel. Like, after she hits him, I can't remember if she has the same shock response where like the audio gets dulled or not. I think she does. Is that right, John?
It starts with it, but then we actually now get to hear, it fades back and we actually get to hear and now see the other side, right? Where when we first saw it with Ellie, Manny comes and wants to, offer, Mel chimes in and goes, we need to, sever all loose ends. And Owen, ever the pragmatic, comes in and kind of saves the day here, or I guess kind of saves Ellie and says, hey, if we kill her, we're going to be just like them. We need to go.
Right.
Jordan, who is the guy with, to quote Ellie here, the bitch scar on his face, actually like points a gun at Owen here and is like, no, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And Owen's like, dude, you're gonna point your gun at me, dude? Like, you little prick! Like, get out of here.
Right. This is all stuff that we saw at the beginning. But the point is that the point that I was trying to make is we see this from Abby's point of view now, and we see that she's not just a wanton marauder that wanted to kill Joel for really no good reason. She didn't take joy in this. She's grappling with this after the fact too, and the fact that she says, "No, we got what we wanted. Let's go," shows exactly that. You know, she's not thrilled that she had to do this killing. She's not a killer. None of them are.
Yeah.
They kind of just got wrapped up into this momentum, and now that she's done this one horrible thing, she's like, I can't do this again. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, she breaks up the fight and says, "Hey, you know, all right, we're done." You know, she kind of has the final say here, and they all listen to her.
And now we're going to start day one with Abby and with the wolves. This whole first opening sequence is just serving to introduce you to them. Their organization is really big, dude. It's like in the thousands. They have got a really well-oiled machine going. Their main base, I think this is their main base, it's out of a football stadium. They've kind of converted that into all of their needs. They've got animals there. They've got shelter. They've got little rooms for folks to be set up in. They've got workout equipment. They've got a school, like a little preschool. It seems like, or kindergarten or something. All of these, and this is something that Noah pointed out in his video, all of these are people that Ellie probably killed during her route, which is kind of sad. But it's showing you that the wolves are not these asshole evil villains, comic book mustache twirling. They're just normal people. They're just normal people living out their lives in the best way they know how. They all seem very pleasant. They've got a good thing going. And, you know, we'll learn that the wolves, and particularly the guy in charge, Isaac, aren't necessarily cold-hearted. But, you know, like so often happens in real life, the individual people inside of some of these institutions are just normal people that are just kind of caught up in the momentum of being in the in-group. They're just regular guys. And that's what Abby and Manny and everybody are. They're just regular guys. To the point where, like, I don't think they remember why they're even fighting with this group called the Scars that we're going to talk more about. They just kind of do it because they do it, you know?
Yeah, this set piece with the stadium is pretty cool. This is modeled after a real-life
very cool
football stadium. It's a Seattle Seahawks stadium, which I think now is called Lumen Field. It used to be called something else. I don't remember, like CenturyLink Field or something. But, you know, they have like agriculture and stuff where you can see them like growing plants. They have a bunch of animals. There's dog kennels. They've like started building like little shanty forts and rooms and stuff into the actual like grandstands and stuff in the stadium. Like, it is very clear from the moment that you actually see the stadium. You're like, oh God, you know, football stadium can hold like 70,000 people or something. And there's not that many people here, but certainly a number in the thousands. And they've like turned one of the concourse levels into like this big ass cafeteria area where they're making food. There's also like a clothing store that Abby can walk up to, and like she asks, you know, hey, do you have this soap that, you know, that I like? And they say no. Like, you see a couple of the characters, as you mentioned, that are probably already dead in Ellie's side of the story. Like Jordan's there as well. Abby and Manny, being like high-ranking wolves here for Isaac's operation, kind of have like, they share a suite, like they're roommates, I guess. They're kind of like bros. And there's conversation about you know, Manny thanks Abby by saying, hey, thanks for letting me have the room last night. And Manny is kind of, you know, has many sexcapades.
Is Manny the one that folks say is a Neil Druckmann insert? That's Manny, right?
Yeah. Even though Manny is supposed to be Spanish, but, you know.
Yeah, make the Neil Druckmann insert be the biggest player that everybody swoons over. It's not. I mean, I definitely don't think that's the case, but it's kind of funny to think about. Like, yeah, I mean, if I was going to self-insert myself into a story, I'm going to not be a Casanova, but, you know, be a guy with some game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of Manny, he gives us orders from Isaac. We're leaving the football area. We're going up to another one of their outposts, their operations. They call it a FOB. I don't know what a FOB is. Do you know what a FOB is?
In military terms, it stands for Forward Operating Base.
Okay. He's calling you up to the one that he's currently at. He wants to see you. Specifically, he wants to see you and Manny, but Mel is going to be coming with you. You do some Last of Us stuff. You get into a firefight with some scars throughout this place before getting saved by some of your WLF brethren, who then, take you to this new fob. And that's all well and good. Like we had talked about earlier, Abby's section of the game, play-wise, is kind of more fun. She's got different move kits. She can craft different things. She's got pipe bombs.
Yeah.
She has a crossbow. She's got different weapons and everything. So that's fun. But this beginning also starts to introduce you to their intergroup dynamics by showing that there's something between Mel and Abby. There's some kind of discomfort there. They're not antagonistic to each other, but they're not friendly. And Manny is trying to be the middleman, like, hey, come on, Abby, you gotta be nice to her. And she's like, shut up, Manny. We just don't know why yet.
Yeah, Manny kind of says like, oh yeah, or I think it's Manny, I can't remember now. Someone says, oh yeah, everyone's kind of been a little bit different since Jackson. At this point, we're, it's probably been 2, maybe 3 months, something like that. We don't know how long it takes, either side of the story, either party to get from, Seattle to Jackson or Jackson back to Seattle, but certainly a couple of months depending on season and how they're, what modes of transportation are available. But yeah, it kind of seems like there's some kind of trouble brewing here, and at this point it doesn't really seem to be Owen related, but we'll get more into that in just a little bit here. I wanted to ask you, Rick, as we're starting out with Abby here, and she has a different skill set, different uses of different like weapons and pipe bombs and things. I saw some like not major, I guess more minor outrage in that the like pill bottles and things that you collect throughout the game for either character reset here, and you kind of have to respec Abby. Did this like upset you at all? For me, it wasn't something that I was like, oh, it didn't bother me because they functionally play as different characters. There's different weapons and things that these characters have. So I was going to, use my upgrade points as I saw fit for whatever character I was playing as. Did this like anger you at all, or did you even notice, or how did you think about this?
Did you even notice? Were you even paying attention, idiot? No, I noticed. No, it didn't bother me at all, because like within the first 10 minutes of playing as Abby, you find like 50 pills. Like they're plentiful in this opening. Like they're trying to get you back on track. At least enough to make like 3 upgrades, I'd say 2 or 3 upgrades before this first part is even over. No, I didn't mind that at all. I wish it were like that. I wish in real life, like any podcaster I podcasted with, we all just kind of inherited the same drugs. And it'd be great fun. But that's just not how the world works,
And I like that, we get ambushed in this section by the scars as we're making our way to the fob. And what better place to like re-up on all of, your upgrade materials than being in a Home Depot. And so you find like knives and stuff to make pipe bombs and rags and alcohol and stuff here, like all stuff that you would readily find in an actual Home Depot. So I just want to shout out that really quick, because I thought that was a kind of a cool in-game meta way to like get Abby's like inventory back up to then make, the pipe bombs or shivs, or she gets a gun later on where you can craft like a fire kind of pellet, like an incendiary round, which I think is kind of cool. So I love that.
Absolutely. I'm always down to shout out the family-owned small-town stores. So Home Depot, everybody. Go check it out.
Home Depot.
You do eventually get to the fob. And by the way, that fight is cool because it feels like you might actually lose. It's pretty great. But you do get to the fob. When you get there, and by the way, all throughout that fight, Mel is with you. She's very pregnant. She's very Gregnard.
Yeah.
It's just, she shouldn't be out there. And to be fair, Abby and Manny do acknowledge that. They're like, she shouldn't be out like this. But at any rate, I'm getting distracted. You get back to the fob. Isaac hasn't given you any assignments. He wants to see you and Manny. And a couple of things become clear pretty quickly. Many of the wolves are being discovered dead, and their bodies are being brought back here. There's a full tent of dead bodies of our friends. And it also seems like there's some mild frustration and distrust towards Isaac. He keeps his cards to his chest. He's not super communicative. We're going to meet him in a second. All of this is brewing, along with tons of new recruits coming in. Speaking of our dead comrades, though, our pal Danny is dead too, and Owen is missing. Nobody knows what's going on. No search party has been sent. Things are in disarray, and nobody really knows why. But we learn why in like 2 seconds. Manny and Abby go and see Isaac. He's torturing somebody right now, torturing a nude Scar, I'm pretty sure, on a bench. This is the introduction that Isaac and the WLFs are not above torture. Isaac is older. He's wizened. He's one of those soft-spoken but hard-nosed sort of commanding officers. He's just got this authority about him. Like, you know that if they got into a fight, Isaac wouldn't be able to get the better of them, but they never would because they're just that afraid of what might happen, and they respect him enough. He's that kind of commander. He handles their tactics and everything. He brings forward a new plan. The ongoing fight with the Scars, it can't continue. And a truce just isn't possible. It's been tried before. It never works. So Isaac's plan, there's a storm coming. We're going to take advantage of it, move in with Abby and Manny leading 2 hacks, both of them at the helm, and we're going to take them down on their own turf. It's risky, but it could be effective. Abby, of course, is like, I don't know about this, and she asks point blank about Owen and Danny. Nora told her about it, but or someone told her about it, and they asked her not to say anything. So she's like, hey, by the way, where's Owen and Danny? Isaac immediately smells through the bullshit. He's like, somebody talked to you, huh? Nora talked to you.
No secrets amongst the Salt Lake crew.
Yeah.
He delivers some bad news to us.
Is Owen okay?
As far as I know.
Then why didn't you send a search party after him?
He shot Danny. Apparently to protect some Scar.
It's bullshit.
Excuse me?
Which is just a wild thing to hear from Abby's perspective. But what's even more interesting is that Isaac isn't keen on hunting Owen down for betrayal. Not at all. He said, if you can bring him back here, I'm willing to hear him out, but I'm not going to go out and get him. It's that kind of deal.
So a couple things here. Jeffrey Wright is the voice and motion capture behind Isaac, and man, is he just so good in this role. Just his natural speaking voice really lends itself to like just how he communicates and speaks to Abby and Manny here. It's so good. So good. So Isaac has this plan that he wants to do this all-out assault on the Scar Island, and he's asking Abby and Manny to kind of lead the charge, assemble your teams. And Abby takes this chance as going, okay, I want Owen. Tell me where Owen is. And that's where Isaac sniffs out the bullshit here. And then, after this, Isaac leaves. It really is interesting, as you pointed out. Like, he's more interested in, like, okay, if Owen can come back, then that's another person I can count on and rely on to help with this all-out attack, right? It's another body, someone experienced that I trust. He's not at all seemingly worried about the possibility that Owen killed Danny over, fighting over a Seraphite or a Scar, right? It's more like it's another hand, another gun, another person that can be here. Abby then gets the idea to go look for him. Manny tries his damnedest to talk her out of it and says, hey, cover for me. And we move on to this next section here.
And the fact that Isaac knows Owen's name at all, given the fact that that organization is thousands and thousands large.
Thousands,
It makes you think that Owen is maybe one of the more trusted crew. So maybe Isaac, hearing this, knows that there's got to be more to this story. And he's like, I won't kill him, but I'm also not going to look for him. Bring him back. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
As you said, we're going to go and look for Owen. He is at the aquarium. Abby just knows it. And she knows this because we see in a 3-year flashback prior where Abby and Owen are hanging out at the aquarium. They're dating at the time. They, by all accounts, seem sweet together. Little plucky, tender overall. Owen's got this devil-may-care attitude. He's swinging from a Ferris wheel cart with Abby in it. Abby's terrified of heights. That's where that's set up here. There's also this micro story here. I know you are very fond of these, John. I like them too. But there's a micro story here at the aquarium of a father whose kids ran away to join the Scars. One of the kids, it's pretty brutal. You find the dad's skeleton in his chair, like up top, holding a note from his kid that's like, we can't be here with you. We've got to go out. You're too much of a chicken shit. And then it's really brutal, and it ends with like, I hope you, maybe this will convince you to get out of that fucking chair of yours.
Yeah,
like,
it says like, I bet you'll find him in that fucking chair. And yeah, like the story was, I guess the mom got shot or killed, and the dad froze and didn't do anything. Like, there's a sailboat here at the aquarium that Owen wants to fix up, and yeah, it's a story you find through like 2 or 3 different notes in this area. Man,
right?
Yeah, I eat these up. I don't think anything really tops Captain Ish from the first game, but all these little micro stories like this are just brutal.
One of the dad's kids named Max has his own section of the aquarium that Owen has found. It's really beautiful. It's like charmingly painted in the way that only a kid can, like in that sloppy but kind of very eager sort of way, innocent
and the
sort of way.
Fort.
Yeah. Murals are just painted everywhere. It's really nice. And inside of that area, he's got this whole backside of the aquarium sort of locked off as Max's place. And it ends in this beautiful room that's got like a glass dome. And interestingly, you can see, tons of animals in there, like a sea lion, or is it a seal? They argue about that, and I don't actually know which one. Which one?
I'm trying to remember now, because they did argue about it. I do believe it's a seal.
Yeah, he's like, I saw a seal with spots, and she's like, that's a sea lion. He's like, no, I know what I saw. It's like, all right, dude. I like them both. I like seals and sea lions. They're cute little critters.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of that stuff down here, and it's really nice. I like that this game takes the time to do this, that shows that nature persists. It breaks that sort of downtrodden aesthetic of the world, hopelessness of the modern world. It feels almost like a reverie, like a dream, that showing that wonder still exists, despite the horrors of our reality. It's really nice. And as I've said several times, I think throughout this series, it breaks up, helps prevent some of that fatigue that might set in otherwise. Yeah, I don't know. It's really cool. One other thing, this is kind of the end of the flashback. It's just showing that the aquarium is a very special place for those two. One other thing that I thought of coming out of this flashback, this takes place 3 years prior. Abby is of average stature. She's not ripped. And I keep thinking, like, this isn't a world of abundance. This is the only comment I'm going to make on Abby's appearance. This isn't a world of abundance. How in the world does she stay so jacked? I can't imagine they've just got plentiful food. And like, if you want to build muscle, you've got to be in a caloric excess. You've got to be eating more calories than you burn as you work out. And she's not just like small but toned. She's like big. She's jacked. Where is she getting all these extra calories, man? That's what I want to know.
No idea. I mean, they're able to grow something. Like, we saw Jackson being able to grow like tomatoes and other vegetables and things. So, maybe there's some sort of animal variety within, close vicinity to the stadium, whether it's deer or just something, there's got to be some sort of meat and protein source. And then we also know that she's, she says it a couple times throughout this scene here, like, hey, you got to get back to training. So she's clearly hitting the weights and having some sort of caloric intake, but we have no idea what it is. I mean, they go and get burritos, her and Manny, before setting out to go to the fob. So, clearly there's some kind of food operation going on here, but I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah. I had a roommate in my freshman year of college that was the joke at IUP was like, if you want to have next to no classes and just do fuck all day, just major in criminology. And he was a criminology major. So basically all he did was work out and play Xbox. And man, that kid like put away so much food because he was just always working out. And he never gained weight. He was muscly. I was just always in awe, man. Like, man, he can put it away. That's what working out does for you, though, man. It's good. It's good for you.
Yeah.
Which is advice that I need to take to heart myself. But now you're off. Back in the present day, you're off through enemy territory toward the aquarium. This is where they start to introduce the Scars as a more sympathetic set of people. That is to say, they're kind of doing the same thing that they did with the wolves. They're showing that, they're not just these crazed lunatics that live in the woods. They've, got their whole own ecosystem and way of life. I don't know that we've talked about them a lot. We should maybe at least introduce them. The Scars are the folks that we saw in the last episode, I think, that shot Ellie in the woods with bows and arrows. But their deal is that they're this sort of cult that want to return to the old ways, to the old traditions. And I apologize if we did explain this and I've just forgotten. But they're basically Luddites. They try not to use technology at all. They want to return to the old ways. That's why they largely use bow and arrows, except when they want to use guns, I guess, because why not? Soldiers are allowed special privileges sometimes. They explain later.
Yeah.
But that's kind of their whole deal. And they were led into this way of life from this prophet that sort of started this whole religion. There is a particular note that you find around here that sort of explains what their prophet's deal is. But the long and short of it is they are a religious cult with some parallels to Jesus. And that comes in a little bit later, especially hearing another cult member say like, yeah, our prophet never actually said these. Their words are twisted. And now they're used as weaponized words to non-believers. It gets a little like, oh yeah, I see what they're doing. Look how clever. But all this to say, they're introducing a new sect and kind of both sidesing it again to show like, yeah, there's normal people everywhere. You know what I mean?
And after that particular note, Abby has a great line here where she says, "Great job, Isaac. You've made a martyr out of a crazy person." It's so good.
It is really good. Abby says a couple of times throughout that she isn't religious. It's not made a point of. It's just kind of tossed aside. She has a lot of disdain for these Scars, and really everybody does. And I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't played a lot past where we're going to stop recording today. I just got to day 3 with Abby. It's still very unclear to me why the Scars and the wolves are fighting. The most I can make is it's just a land dispute, and it's not even explained all too well. It's what I think they're highlighting. I don't even know if they meant to do this or if it just is a happenstance of the story that they were writing. But it's what I find fascinating is it's showing you how warring factions can just lose all sight of why they're even fighting in the first place. And they just continue through generations just because it's what you do. You get into that momentum of an in-group and you just keep going because it's what you do. You dehumanize the enemy. It's us versus them. You see it constantly. You see it constantly in today's world in many charged topics that we should maybe not get into today. But it's just as in some ways dehumanizing as what we see Ellie go through. It's obviously very different. I'm not going to go through the whole list of but what about, because this isn't Twitter and I don't need to do that. But it leads to a sort of degradation, not dissimilar to what we see going on with Ellie. It's really poisonous, I think. Soapbox. I'm not going to get on that soapbox. We'll save that for another day.
Sure. Yeah, this is where the allegory of the warring factions here kind of coming into play as, representation of the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, where it's like the sides have been warring for so long, they don't remember why they started, having these wars in the first place. You
Precisely.
You can read a lot of the notes here, and Abby makes comments on them about, they broke the truce. And then you'll read a note that says, that's written by a Seraphite or a Scar that says, oh no, it was the wolves that broke the truce. And then there's this whole area called Martyrs Gate where apparently the truce was enacted, but someone broke the truce and each side claims the other side broke the truce, and that's why they're continuing to fighting, or why they continue to fight. So no side, I think, really remembers at this point why they're fighting one another. I think it's in part a land dispute, and also just like, well, this is what we do. We fight each other.
Yeah, I'm glad that they explore it. As we both said, it happens constantly in real life. While we're looking for Owen, we fight some scars. Abby gets ambushed at some point, and she gets pinned down. She can't get out of this one. She tries, though. She bites the ear off of the scar that's holding her down. It's pretty good. She Mike Tyson's him. But then she gets hammered right in the temple. I mean that literally. Somebody takes a hammer and hammers her in her temple. In real life, she wouldn't wake up from that, but she has plot armor, so she's going to wake up. Youch. We get another little flashback here. It's the same deal. It's 4 months earlier. It's at the aquarium. Really just showing this, one, because, I mean, she got knocked the fuck out. she might just be dreaming. But it shows this to emphasize the changing relationship between Owen and Abby, now that Owen at that time was dating Mel, as well as the time at which they found a lead on Tommy. They were still looking for Joe? They were still looking for Joel at this point. They found a lead on where Tommy might be. Hey, are you in this with me? We're all in this together. You're coming, right? Yeah. Okay. That's what this flashback sort of alludes to, sort of emphasizes. And you can do a little mini game with a bow and arrow if you want to.
Yeah. It's interesting to note that like Abby's plan at this point was to go to Jackson and look for Tommy and kind of beat Joel's whereabouts out of him. And I love Owen's kind of response to this was like, okay, well, Tommy hasn't been with the Fireflies for, 10 years. And how do we even know if Tommy knows where Joel's location currently is? And Abby's response, kind of like what Ellie's probably would be at this point, is like, hey, it's a lead. I need to see it through. Man, it throws a... Maybe, I guess it is a little bit of a curveball in that she was going to Jackson specifically for Tommy, and going back to how her facial animation is animated in that scene when they're escaping the ski lift there, that surprise of hearing Joel and Tommy's name and the way that her facial animation there is like, oh my God, I won the lottery. Here are not only the guy I was looking for, but the other guy I was actually looking for, the guy I'm here to kill, and I just lucked into running into both of them. It's kind of, once you are able to see that or replay that a second time, it brings a different sense of that scene out, which I love.
We're back to present day. Abby's unconscious body is totally soaked. It's raining. Mud is everywhere. She's dirtied. She's getting dragged to a noose. It's the dead of night. The only source of light is this open fire that's draping everything in an orange hue. She's being strung up in said noose, and she's going to have her intestines carved out. She is full of sin. We've seen this before when we were first introduced to them. We saw it at the radio station. We saw it in the woods. Just as it's about to go down, literally the knife tip is drawing blood from her abdomen. Another woman is brought in. Seems like with some fanfare. She's not announced, but the scars make those whistling noises. They call this woman Yara, and they ask where the other apostate is. Apostate, that's somebody who leaves or abandons a religion. An iconoclast, kind of a synonym.
Yeah.
They ask where the other apostate is, and she spits. She's feisty. And the order is given to clip her wings. So she's pinned down. This is brutal. She's pinned down. They take a hammer, and they just break her arm over and over and over again.
Right at the elbow, too. Yeah, right at the elbow. My goodness.
It's fucking brutal. And just as the second arm is about to be broken, the guy holding the hammer gets an arrow through the cheek and in the chest. The first guy gets a little startled, and while he's startled, Yara gets him in the head with the hammer claw. She kind of gets out of that sticky situation. The woman who is going to slice Abby's intestines out, she gets distracted because of the incoming arrows and gets grabbed by Abby's powerful legs. And, she's getting choked to death. But she gets clawed by Yara as well.
Yeah, she gets hit in the face like the exact same hammer that was just used to break one of her arms. Yara picks it up and hits her right across the face with her good arm. Man, talk about brutality. I remember this scene pretty vividly because they showed this as a trailer as early as I believe 2017, I want to say. So this kind of whole scene was shown. It kind of in conjunction after like the fake out scene I talked about with Jesse and Joel from last week. This was shown, I think, a couple of months, maybe 4 or 5 months or something like that after that, like kind of introducing Abby as a character here. Man, what an introduction of these characters, right? Like, we're seeing, we have no idea what's going on. We're seeing, okay, one of them just got her arm brutally like broken, and Lev comes in, and Yara needs to actually tell Lev, like, hey, go ahead and cut this girl down. She kind of did us a solid by killing this, you know, some form of elder or leader within this religion here. Lev is very apprehensive to it at first. And then, you know, you kind of got to fight your way out. This is an intense fight here because, as you pointed out, Rick, like, it's raining, it's dark, and your only light source is a handful of torches here. Like, this is very scary and intense. I don't know how you felt during this, but I certainly was on my toes here.
It is tense. It's maybe the second most horror game section of the game, maybe. I'm not exactly an expert on horror. I just know that there is one that is definitively number one in this game, and it's not this. This was really cool. Everybody has a mutual interest and goal of not dying. So, you know, the enemy of my enemy, etc. You guys are teaming up. You end up finding a group of trailers, like a trailer park, and you get inside of one of them that's unlocked, and Abby has to set the arm. The arm is totally broken, obviously. Not great. Really painful, I'm sure. She leaves. She gives them, as she's leaving, she turns to the boy, Lev, and she's like, you know, this area gets a lot of traffic. You should leave by tomorrow. And Lev is pretty dismissive about it. They don't have a great relationship for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
At one point, Lev, I think this is here. At one point, Lev says that they got excommunicated from the Scars because Lev shaved their head. And Abby is just like, okay, fine. Don't tell me, I guess.
Abby starts the conversation like, hey, why are they shooting at you guys? Why were you called an apostate? I'm just kind of paraphrasing here. And Lev, as we'll find out, is so matter-of-fact and so truthful in all of their responses. It's really interesting to me. I love it. He's just like, oh yeah, I shaved my head. And Abby's so dismissive and like, okay, fine, don't tell me what the hell happened. And Yara is the one that's just kind of like, hey guys, common interest, common goal here, let's just get the fuck out and move on. Yara really is the one that kind of keeps her head cool through all of this, which I love. There's a kind of an ode to the first game when you're in the Pittsburgh section and you've teamed up as Joel and Ellie when you're with Henry and Sam and you're trying to escape through here. And there's a point where it looks like these kids have left you and Abby's left on her own, and you're just like, oh shit, this is the last time I trust Scars. Why did I ever trust a Scar, right? Kind of harking back a little bit to that time where it looked like Henry and Sam were leaving you. I love that bit. It's a pretty tough couple of combat encounters here because you don't have like all of your stuff at first, and then you finally get kind of all your equipment back. Really tough section as far as enemies go because it's a lot of infected, and for a certain part of it you're also on your own. And then, as you said, we get to the kind of like construction trailers here. I love, you know, Abby's trying her best to look out for them, like, hey, you know, you did me a solid by cutting you down. I'm gonna do a solid by letting you know, like, hey, you know, my people, the wolves, patrol this area, could also be infected, roaming, like, just stay on your toes. And Lev's like, yeah, we got it, just go. Like, not at all thankful for, you know, for Abby's part and kind of all of them escaping together.
Abby does end up finding Owen back at the aquarium. Owen is in his boat, that boat that's out there, and he lays down what happened.
We were cleaning out a small camp. It's just a couple scars, and hit this one on the head hard, and he goes down and his weapon's right there, and he doesn't go for it. Instead, he turns to me And he's old. And tired. He was just ready. I've killed a lot of scars. And, fucking guy. I couldn't do it. Of course, Danny gets in my fucking face about it. I told him I'm done. He can do it himself if he wants. And he points his fucking gun at me.
Danny gets in his face about it and points his gun at Owen. And he acted on instinct. He shot him. And presumably in self-defense, or so he thought. And he says, I'm done. I'm not going back. He's chasing a lead, sort of like with Tommy. The Fireflies are possibly regrouping in Santa Barbara. Abby doesn't buy this for a second. Like it's like, oh yeah, sure, okay. And, they start arguing pretty intensely. It gets a little physical, like fighting-wise physical. And then it gets romantic physical. They kind of decide in that moment to hook up in a scene that has been memed to hell. Yeah.
This is the main, thing that people were saying that Dr. Uckman self-inserted him, here, and that,
so it wasn't
he
Manny
is...
then.
Well, so people, it was mostly Manny, but at first when they saw this scene, they thought that, I remember seeing in specifically the leaks that people were thinking that this sex scene was Neil Druckmann forcing himself, with Laura Bailey, and that they actually mocapped this whole sex scene out. And I'm like, guys, they didn't mocap the sex scene. Like, this is all animated here.
So this is just people being unhappy, and they'll just use, he self-inserted anytime they want to criticize something. Okay.
Clearly, yeah. Before the sex part starts, I love Owen's line here, and I think this is the thing that triggers Abby, is that he says, I am tired of fighting over land I don't give a fuck about anymore. And I think it's something about that line that Abby, Owen is disenfranchised at this point from the wolves, and I think this is the beginning of Abby going, okay, well, if the man I love, the man that I'm, regardless that he's got a baby mama, I still care for this guy. If he's going to leave, then I'm going to make my decision to leave as well, to go to Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and up until this point, Owen has been exceedingly likable. He kind of, I don't know, this might just be my view, he kind of turns into a scumbag after this, just blatantly cheating on his pregnant wife. In a later scene, it kind of makes it seem like he wants to just abandon that and start up with Abby again. And it's like, my guy, you cannot be doing that. That's not cool, dude. This whole, I gotta be honest, I'm not against the hookup scene. I just think they shot it in the worst possible way. There's got to be intention behind it, right? The reason that this scene is so memed is because, like a lot of quote unquote makeup sex, it's rough. And the way they portray it is he kind of rips her clothes off, and turns her around and pushes her up against, not against flush, but up into against a window kind of deal. And, it's sort of rough like that. This is a PG show, and it's just very awkwardly shot. And I have to imagine it's very awkwardly shot. And I'm curious, why do you think they did it like this? Why this was clearly intentional. So what's your read on this?
I'll cheat here with my answer because I'm coming from the director's commentary, and Neil Druckmann's specific, at least for Laura Bailey and the actor who plays Owen. This is the way excuse me, the direction that Neil Druckmann gave the actors was that this is Abby's first time having sex, and I think that plays a part into how it's shot. at least the camera angles and how kind of rough and tumble and gruff that it is, that this is Abby's first time being intimate, that her and Owen weren't previously intimate before this. They were dating, but they're 18, 19, 20, somewhere around that age at the time that they were dating, and now she's a little bit older, but she's never been intimate before. And so that's part of, I think, why this scene plays out the way that it does.
What a strange decision. This might be a rare example where they're being too subtle with things.
Yeah.
Because that's not really communicated very clearly at all. And because why would it be? And then you get this scene. That's very strange. I don't know, man. Weird stuff.
It was also memed to death because of Abby's body type and her being so big and buff, and that she didn't look feminine enough for a lot of people's liking. It's another reason why people shit on this particular scene, which I'm like, some people just aren't going to be happy, man. So I ignore those comments and move on.
Moving forward here, Abby wakes up, the next morning. She feels pretty guilty about leaving Yara and Lev behind. These are feelings that she's going to struggle with accepting as time moves forward. Despite, what she's been led to believe, what she's been indoctrinated into, she's heading back to make sure they're okay. And they're alive. They had to fend off some of their own that have come to get them. There's some corpses laid about. And Lev almost pierces her with an arrow. Or is it a gun? I can't remember. Pierces her with an arrow or a bullet whenever she comes in, but obviously she doesn't. She just came back to check on him. Yara's arm is not looking good at all. It looks like a pickled sausage. It does not look good one little bit.
Yeah.
She clearly needs medical attention. So Abby has a change of heart. She's going to take them to Owen and Mel.
It's important to note here, too, that the bodies that we see here that Lev has killed are scars. They're not wolves. Like, they're all wearing like those kind of brown trench coat things that are very popular within their group of people. So Lev's probably killed 10 or 12 of the Seraphites here.
When they get their Owen and Mel, they're pretty reticent, but they take a look at her. And as you'd expect, that arm needs to go. There's no saving it. It's going to turn gangrenous. They mentioned something called compartment syndrome, which is basically when I think the blood can't move through the tissue properly. The arm's going to turn gangrenous. It's got to get cut off. The problem is that they're on a timeline. They just don't have the time for Abby to go back and get supplies. It's too far away. She won't make it in time. She very well could die of infection. But Lev says, hey, I know a way. The Seraphites, the Scars, have made bridges all above, in these tall remaining skyscrapers. We've made tons of bridges up there. Something he says later is, wolves never look up. We'll always find a way around you. They've got these runways that go across buildings, and he says, I can get you there to the hospital where the supplies are in 2 hours. We're like, hey, this is the best chance at survival. We're going to do it. And honestly, those bridges... there's a little bit of stuff to talk about beforehand, but those bridges, some of the coolest set pieces in this game, I think. They are very cool.
Yeah, agree. Totally. There's something really unnerving and unsettling with the fact that a lot of the downtown area of Seattle is flooded, but specifically with ocean water. It's salt water rushing through, and it's just these really fast rapids. So you see these tall 40, 50 story buildings, these skyscrapers, right? And the first, second, and even third story in some of these buildings is just rushing with these rapids of ocean water. It's something really unsettling about that to me. And just seeing city streets and a couple of raised exit, roads and things like that are just completely been torn apart by rushing rapids. Really cool set design. And again, speaking to the verticality aspect of it, it's really cool where you're maneuvering in and out of buildings and you got to hop along different parts of the broken highway and streets and the overpass and stuff here and maneuvering through buildings and things. Man, so cool the verticality that they were able to add. And I think specifically with the city of Seattle, it really plays a cool part in this game. I really dig this.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Really nice. On their way there, and this is just an aside kind of deal, Abby explains to Lev what compartment syndrome is. Lev and the Seraphites, they kind of just don't know this stuff. And Lev asks, how do you know that? And Abby says, I grew up around a doctor. It kind of made me realize that, this is obviously a post-societal world. They probably don't have education centers like we know of today, like schooling. And certainly, I'm sure a lot of, I don't imagine that the internet is a thing here or, they have large libraries of textbooks. So teaching is just whoever will to the younger generation, and eventually things will just die off and be forgotten forever. That's really scary.
Yeah, and Abby has a moment where she's trying to joke, where like Lev kind of wanders off for a second and sees like a painting of cats dancing or playing music or something, and Abby's like, "Oh yeah, but back in when I was your age, like cats would dance and sing." And Lev just looks at her and goes like, "Hey, I'm 13. Like I'm not an idiot. I understand some things about this world." I love that little interchange here. It's very interesting to see their relationship from the get-go here. It kind of is the opposite of Joel and Ellie from the first game, where Abby is the one that's kind of trying to tell jokes and kind of open up, and Lev is just kind of very, not necessarily cold, but kind of, he chooses his words very carefully, and he's very matter of fact and direct in his responses or what he has to say, which reminds me a lot of Joel at the onset of part 1. So it's kind of cool to see this flip-flopping of personalities between, your characters here.
I'm glad that you brought that comparison up now, because it leads into something that I don't want to discuss at length until the next episode, because I think day 3 expounds upon this a bit. But when you're up top, like going through these really, really high bridges, Abby, by the way, still very afraid of heights, you run into more of these scars and they yell, "You should have stayed away, Lily." And, you do the fighting, you kill him. And Lev will say, "Did you hear what they called me?" And then says, "Do you want to ask me about it?" To which Abby responds, "Do you want me to ask you about it?" And Lev says, "No." So this is a very contentious topic within not just gaming, but queer folk in general. This seems to be contentious. The fact of it is that Lev is trans. And a quick background of what happened is that Lev was going to get married off to a village elder, which is par for the course in their society. Like in a lot of societies from the past, we've heard this done. Lev did not want that. Lev shaved his head, embracing his identity as man, and was cast out of the cult because of that. Yara decided to go with Lev to support him, while their mother decided to stay back, and I think they say she abstained from food as an act of repentance. I don't want to discuss this until I can, John, I'm sure you would be able to at length right now. I want to play through the rest to get all the context I can, especially around such a sensitive topic like this. I do want to say two things. One, I think it's noticeable that Lev's only defining character trait is being trans, it seems. There is absolutely nothing else explored about Lev, which opens up a different conversation. Like, I don't think every single character and every single piece of whatever needs to have an extremely fleshed out backstory and, I'm just saying that it was certainly a choice to make this the one thing about Lev and not really explore much else. The second thing is that this is where I really started to feel like the writers are really trying to draw as many parallels as they can to make themselves seem so clever by not just mirroring Ellie and Joel, but having the older, quote, in charge person have a younger compatriot that is LGBT in some way, Ellie and Lev. It's getting a little bit too on the nose. They're trying a little bit too hard. It's just a whole thing. I was reading some articles earlier today from queer folk talking about Lev. It does seem like it's kind of, contentious is maybe the wrong word. Some folks don't like Lev. They say it's not good representation. Others think it's good and fine. There's just a lot to unpack there, and I don't want to approach this conversation unprepared, is really all I'm saying.
Sure. And I guess just to kind of briefly tack onto that, I do think that, at least for me, and take this for what you will, being a cisgendered plain Jane white male, so my thoughts on this probably shouldn't even be heard or talked about, but I do think that there's something very interesting in having a person of color in a story that they are also queer. And I think that more representation of that nature should be in video games. I'm tired of seeing just, plain Jane, like, white male or female in games. And so I like seeing more representation on that front. So from my standpoint, I like Lev's representation for what that's worth in the game. But again, cisgender white male, take that with the biggest grain of salt, there is. I love Lev as a character, and I think that the journey that we will see him go through, especially by the end of what we'll record is the next episode, man, I like his journey, and he becomes one of, like, my top 2 or 3 characters overall in this story, for what that's worth.
Interesting. That is not my memory of Lev whatsoever, but I guess we'll find out. I'm looking forward to talking more about it. It seems like there are some queer folk that specifically do not like the way Lev is portrayed, especially as transmasc. Is that how you would say that? Transmasc? That's a topic for next time. Speaking of Lev, though, they do have a really interesting conversation, Lev and Abby. Abby is terrified of heights, as we said, and you just keep going higher and higher and higher here. It's astounding how high you go. And at one point, Lev tries to, inspire some calmness in Abby, and he says this saying that you may have heard throughout the game, only when weak can I show my true strength. It's like a Seraphite saying that they say. And I think that is a somewhat profound line. I think that is, like, in real life, I think that's a very Zen kind of grounded thing. Lev, of course, doesn't see it as that way. This is like, post-society, their goal is to survive. So Lev's spin on it is, when you're afraid, you can run faster. You're a little stronger. Your mind is more focused, So of course, and that's technically true. But I think that's an admirable thing to do, to think about embracing that which makes you afraid, that makes you quote unquote weak, to then become your strongest self. Embracing your flaws so as to let you grow. I think there's a lot to be said about that. And you can even tie it back to the events of the game. Joel's greatest sign of weakness, one could say, was choosing to defend Ellie at the end of the first game. That made him weak, because the quote-unquote strong decision would have been to save her for the greater good. Once he was at his quote-unquote weakest, he now has room to grow, how to grow into his true strength. How does he do that? By becoming a father figure, by becoming a pillar of Jackson. I don't know. This is just something that I sort of thought up on the spot. I don't know if that makes any sense. I will probably be able to pick it apart and totally refute myself 30 minutes after we get off this call. So that's fine. But I do like that line a lot. They don't really explore much more with that. They just kind of put it in to highlight Lev's relationship to his folk. But I really like that line. It got me to think a lot.
Yeah, or to his faith. Yeah, relationship to his faith, which I like. Yeah.
Try as he might, though, he can't totally take away all of Abby's fears. This bridge is just, I can't emphasize enough, it's wildly high, to the point where it's just foggy all the time, practically in the clouds. At one point, Abby's terror gets the best of her. Before this happens, it's pretty funny. Abby is, like, really gingerly trying to cross this very narrow side wall, so, to get to the other side. And and Lev is like, hey, what's up with you and that guy, Owen? It seemed awkward. And Abby is like, what the fuck?
Oh my
Why
God,
now?
Lev, now?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But shortly after that, she gets, her terror kind of freezes her up. And as she's crossing a metal pole, she slips. Lev tries to grab her, but they both plummet conveniently and thankfully through this glass ceiling into a swimming pool in this, this hotel.
Yeah, this is a cool set piece, in my opinion, as we venture further into the hotel here. Like, Abby's asking Lev, like, okay, so where do we go now? What do we do? And he's like, well, the bridge was just going to take us on the other side, and we'd go down and be right there. But now we have to traverse through this whole hotel. There's like stores and stuff throughout here. There's a gym. There's Wi-Fi signs. Pay attention to those because they may help you solve an environmental puzzle or two. We get to a point here where, I think we crash in on like the 22nd or 23rd floor or something like that, and we need to get all the way down to the street. We get to like a stairwell that's been cordoned off, and we see Fedra here. Fedra's been here, and Fedra's whole presence here was that they were going to level this building because it's been completely overrun by infected. And as we'll see as we progress through here, that there are large amounts of floors that have just been completely obliterated by bombs. And the one Fedra officer that we see blocking our path here had written a note that says, like, oh my gosh, these faulty triggers for these bombs are going to be the death of me, like, fuck Fedra. It's like kind of a little bit of dark humor here. But Abby in the distance sees spores, and she says, all right, gas mask on, and Lev doesn't have one, so now we need to traverse into the spores and find a gas mask for Lev before we can even start descending in floors here. I love this set piece. A lot of infected here, a lot more stalkers in this area, so you got to be really on your toes.
I hate stalkers so much. The infected are like growing into the wall as well. Very cool.
Yeah, it's very hard to be stealthy in this section because you'll have these infected, the stalker types, come literally barreling out of the walls towards you, and it makes it really intense. And I love it. It keeps you on your toes through this whole section here.
Yeah, this section is very, very cool. I like this a lot. I mean, hotels are always a slam dunk for The Last of Us. It always works, especially one that's falling apart as much as this one. Those things growing out of the wall, it's very cool. Isn't this where you get the flamethrower, too? Abby's like a unique weapon to Abby?
It probably is. I honestly can't remember because I'm playing my current playthrough on a loaded save, like a new game plus. I don't actually remember where you get the flamethrower in this game, but I think this might be it. I think you're right.
Oh, do they carry over all the weapons and upgrades and stuff?
Yeah, on New Game Plus they do. So all of your like upgraded skills and things carry over. So I'm on a higher difficulty, but I started the game with all of my stuff.
Oh, cool. That's nice. I don't have a ton more to say about the hotel. Just, I like it. I don't like stalkers. Great set piece. Do you have anything before we move out of here to the hospital?
No, just that it is really cool because you have to descend probably 20 floors, and it's a lot of like kind of maybe not necessarily environmental puzzling, but a lot of floors are just gone, so you're climbing in and around and under things, like really, really cool and intense. And each time you think you've gotten to a safe place, lo and behold, there's a half dozen infected waiting for you there. So really, really cool set piece. Just the environment really kind of enacts that like horror vibe to me, because you're inside the building. There's not a lot of light coming through, so you're using your flashlight a lot, and it's very easy to get turned around or just to be surprise attacked by infected here. But it really serves its purpose in like showing you like, man, this building was absolutely just fucked, and you got to fight your way through. And we do, and we end up at the base of the hospital.
Right, which is another wolf fob, F-O-B. And that being the case, Abby's like, all right, Lev, you stay here. I got to go get the supplies. And she does. She gets in there. She has to lie, obviously, about why she's there. She can't just say she's helping some scars. And two, because Owen and now presumably Mel are AWOL. So she can't just say she's helping them either. It works well enough to get past the newer folks, the guards at the front of the gate. Everybody knows Abby. They're not going to question, her that in depth right now. They're underlings. Rumors, though, this is something you hear. Rumors are going around now about Owen. They're not rumors. I mean, they're facts. It's what actually happened. But Abby tries to shut that shit down at the first one that she hears. Pretty good. But eventually the jig is up. Abby's lie falls apart. These guards come in with guns drawn. They're like, all right, Abby, Isaac wants you to come on the next shipment. He wants to meet with you. And they handcuff her to be sent out with this next shipment of supplies. But luckily for her, Nora comes by and uncuffs her. It sounds like she knows all about what's going on with Owen and Mel, minus the scars, and that's what Abby ends up telling her, is that Owen's arm is the one with that needs to be amputated, so that's why she's here with the supplies. But Nora is nice enough to uncuff her. She's going to help cover for her and such, and she says, okay, the supplies that you want, they're going to be down in the trauma center, the ICU, emergency. But the problem is we haven't cleared those floors yet.
Yeah.
There's probably a shit ton of infected in there. Which, by the way, why didn't they clear those floors? Is this just a new fob for them? They haven't got around to it yet?
Yeah, so they were just getting all of the medical supplies from the upper floors, but they didn't clear floors 1 and 2. Nora says hey, when the outbreak started, the city used, the ICU and the emergency room, which are all on the bottom floors here, as Nora says, is ground zero. So that's where they were bringing all of the people who were initially infected down there. And as we'll see, it was a lot of people being brought in. And so they just never went down there because of those floors being heavily infected, and that it was the first people to be infected. So the infected that we'll see down here have been here for over 20 years at this point. So a lot of spores and infected.
Yeah, we learn a lot about that from the notes that we find. It's like another little micro story where these normal citizens, these civilians that were getting infected, were just increasingly being treated like not property, but just not human. They were just being stuffed into here. Keep them down low. Don't go down there. Just put them down there. There's somebody else's problem. And eventually, even the doctors here, we find a note from a doctor that's I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. This is inhuman. I can't do this. And eventually that's what happens. All the folks that were pushed down here turn infected. And that's who we fight all throughout here. It's actually pretty similar to a micro story on a boat that we breezed past a little bit earlier, where all of the infected were kind of corralled into one room. There was a mutiny that happened. The kind of cliche, the nastiness of man, the Lord of the Flies kind of a deal. This set piece is super cool. Before we get into that, though, one other really quick thing. Nora does tell you that Isaac is interrogating everybody extremely harshly after Abby kind of abandoned post, and apparently Mel got it particularly bad, which, given Mel and Abby's contentious and rocky relationship, I can imagine did a lot on Mel's psyche. I can imagine she's pretty shook up.
Yeah, and we'll kind of see them, Mel and Abby sort of square off in what'll be the next episode, and how Mel views and sees Abby. Can't wait to talk about that little scene. But yeah, poor Mel. She seems to have really caught the brunt of Isaac's anger about, why Abby left her post and kind of abandoned them for 24 hours.
And I'm sure it was no accident. I mean, I would be shocked if Isaac didn't know somehow about, what's going on with Abby, Owen, and Mel and that little love triangle. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that he knew about it and used that to his advantage. And, that's why he singled out Mel so hard.
Yeah, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I think, Mel being, on the verge of 8 months pregnant or something kind of plays into that as well. Isaac certainly is a man of knows where to, push or where to press to do the most damage, and that would be Mel in this case.
So Abby is going to go through this hospital, the ICU, the emergency, trauma, surgery. You look for these supplies. It is an infected hellhole down here. I mean, there are spores, right? I'm pretty sure there are spores. They're infected all over the place. The folks that have turned previously, they're growing out of the wall here. They've got those, like, I don't know what you call those like tents that you set up whenever you need to like emergency treat a bunch of people. There's a bunch of those set up here too.
Biohazard tunnels.
Yes, biohazard tunnels. There's all of that's down here, and you get to explore the full area too. Like, it's not just 1 or 2 rooms. You're going all throughout. This is a really cool area.
You see gurneys here too that are just completely engulfed in like the actual infection. Like, you'll see kind of like a foot or something hanging out, but it's just completely in like the gurney, the wall. You'll see entire rooms here that are just completely filled with like the actual cordyceps virus. It is really creepy.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Abby, she just can't seem to find any of these supplies. They're in the last place that she looks, because why would she keep looking after that? You know what I mean? I never understood that phrase. It's in the last place that I looked. Well, yeah, because you found it. What are we doing? It's in this ambulance that's in the sort of basement parking area of the whole thing. She finds the supplies in the ambulance, and this is where the horror starts up. This is where we meet the Rat King. This fucker, the Rat King. I'm looking at a picture of him right now, and it's still kind of tough to describe him. What the Rat King is a horde of infected, maybe, I don't know, like 7 or 8 of them that have just kind of fused together into this monstrosity with arms coming out where they shouldn't, 2 legs, and then a 3rd leg that's kind of just there, with lots of different mouths, the mushroom sort of looking virus all over it. The Rat King is a fucking nightmare. Straight out of Nightmare. Goodness.
You can actually see him before you start the fight. Like, through this whole section, Abby needs to turn the power back on. A lot of these doors were like mechanized, and you needed power to open them. And when you first turn the power on, you can go to the door where he's at and do the listen mode thing, and you can see his like white outline, which is kind of cool. You can see it for a brief second.
The big fucking white outline?
Yeah, of him. But yeah, he's effectively like almost twice the size of like a bloater, and as you said, it's like compiled of like 8 or 9 infected, and it's hands and feet, and man, what a grotesque freaking like design here. There's kind of like almost a stalker version, somewhere between like a stalker and clicker type version that is smaller and has like more mobility.
Well, that's the cool thing about this guy. I'm pretty sure that we see this happen once you damage it enough. One of the mutated monsters just falls off, and it's like a stalker, but it can do the bloater's moves, so they're all kind of like a single organism. I don't remember if you see this in the notes around here, but I was looking at the wiki, and it said that it's likely that these are among the first people ever infected, and they just kind of took 25 years to fuse into this freak.
Yeah, like if you are paying attention and you can see the one room that's been cordoned off, and then as you're backtracking and you see the room that he was in, you can kind of tell because there's like a blood trail that leads out to where you have to get into the ambulance. And if you look in that room, it's just completely filled with the cordyceps virus of like kind of this den that it was in. But yeah, like the wiki really kind of spells it out, like, yeah, this is probably 8 or 9 people that have just been fused together over time because the cordyceps has completely engulfed them. And this fight doesn't have any verticality to it, but you're in and out of like the biohazard tunnels, you're in and out of rooms. Like, this is where I pretty much used every weapon at my disposal, and by the end of this fight, I was very thankful that Abby has the ability to craft ammo here, because I was completely out of ammo by the end of this fight, whether it was the shotgun with the incendiary rounds, her like assault rifle weapon. I was using the hell out of the pipe bombs. Like, this was a very intense fight, and one that you have to be constantly on the move. There's no standing still in this fight whatsoever.
Yeah, and the reason is because if he grabs you, that's it. You're dead. And what makes this fight so horror-tinged is that it starts with an escape sequence. Like, you have to... Abby doesn't know what the hell this is, so she barely makes it out of the ambulance. And then you're running back to and through the hospital. It's so dark. I mean, everything is coated in this like blue ambiance. It's practically you can't see. I mean, you can see, but it's so dark. You're barely getting through doors. If he grabs you, it's game over. You can barely keep up, and eventually, like you said, you have to fight him across this entire area of the hospital. I mean, it's tough. Fire works great. If pipe bombs, if you got the flamethrower, the incendiary shotgun shells, those work terrific. That fucking stalker kind of bleeds out of him, and you have to deal with that too eventually. That sucks. This is such an iconic fight of this game, for good reason. I mean, it's tough, it's scary, it's really good.
Oh yeah, I was not expecting this. I remember my first time playing this, I didn't know about the listen mode trick or anything like that. I found that out years later. So when this fight first started, there was a lot of oh shit, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck going on during my first playthrough. What a cool boss sequence. I absolutely love this. And maybe not at the time, but like afterwards, there was a sense of accomplishment of like, oh my god, I killed that thing, and felt really good about it afterwards.
Yeah, this is a pretty exciting spot in the game. Day 3 is just about to start, but there's like one scene before it, but why don't we end on a real exciting note, and we'll cap it here for today. We'll pick up on Day 3 and get to the ending in the last episode, The Last of Us Part 4. Part 2, Part 4. A lot of fun. Thanks again, listeners, for sticking around and listening, and thank you again, John, for taking the time to talk to me today. What's new in your world? You had shared last time that the Video Game Lounge is going on a bit of a break. Have you been up to any other fun sort of podcasting?
As far as podcasting goes, no, but I got a cool project that I'm working on that I'm not yet ready to reveal just yet because it's still kind of in the infantile stages. But once I have more information and I'm ready and comfortable to share, then I will. But I got something that I'm brewing up behind the scenes here that I'm really excited about. So I'll just tease for right now.
Nice. I'm excited to learn about this myself. I don't know anything more than the listeners at this point. That'll be exciting. But if you wanted to check out the Video Game Lounge, the back episodes are still there. You can do so by looking at the links in our description. You can find them on social media. You can find them on the podcasting apps to listen to.
Yep.
In the description, you can also find links to our stuff, to the socials, Blue Sky and Instagram mainly. You can find a link to our free Discord server, as well as our Patreon page, if you would prefer to support that way. So once again, thank you, John, and thank you, listeners, for sticking around. Looking forward to wrapping this up next time. That's about all for today. See you next time.